Hello and welcome back to Easy Learning with Riha. I hope you all are doing good. So for today's lesson, we will be doing a short story by Hans Christian Andersen, which is The Little Match Girl. So this story, it was first published in the year 1854. So Hans Andersen, he was inspired by the Danish artist Johan Thomas Lundby to write this story, because Johan Thomas Lundby, he had made a painting where a little girl was seen selling matches. So Hans Andersen, he was basically inspired by this painting and he wrote this story. So it is also said that this story is based upon Hans Christian Andersen's mother and all the difficult times and all the hardships that she had to face as a child during her childhood. So coming towards the story, this story is a fairy tale. So when we talk about or when we hear about fairy tales, the first thing that comes in our mind is happy ending or happily ever after. But this story, it has a little twist. We do not get to see happy ending or happily ever after in this story, but at the end of the story, we get to see a very tragic ending. So this story is about a little girl who is sent out by her father to sell matches in the cold New Year's Eve. So at the end of the story, we get to see how this little girl, she ends her life due to very bitter cold outside and due to the lack of sympathy that the wealthy people has towards her. And if you all want to know about the story in detail, please do watch the video till the end, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon so that you all get notified every time I upload new videos. So now let's begin with the story, The Little Match Girl. So at the very beginning of the story, we get to see that it is New Year's Eve, the last day of the old year, and it is very dark and very cold outside because the snow is falling. And in this cold, dark and snowy evening, there is one little girl who is walking on the streets all alone, and she is not even wearing proper warm clothes. She is neither wearing her hat nor her scarves, and even the slippers which she is wearing are extremely bigger than her size, because the slippers, they do not belong to the little girl, but rather these slippers are of her mother. And as the little girl is walking down the streets, she notices that two carriages are approaching towards her, and the carriages are being driven very fast. So the girl is frightened and she tries to run away, trying to escape the carriages. And in the process of running away, she loses one of her slippers. And while she is trying to find the slipper which she lost, one naughty boy comes near her and he steals her other slipper as well, and he runs away taking her other slipper with him. So the girl is left with no slippers at all. She is completely barefoot. Now the girl, she started walking barefoot, and her feet were red and blue due to extreme cold. And in her old apron, the little girl, she carried lots of matches and also in her hand. But in the whole day, she was not able to sell even a single match, and she did not earn even a single penny from anyone. And the girl, she became very hungry and very tired, and also was feeling very, very cold. But she kept on walking slowly. The little girl is the main character of the story, and she is not given any name in the story, and even her age is not mentioned. But yet, as the writer describes her as someone who has very tiny feet and tiny little hands, and she had rosy cheeks and long curly hairs, and the size of the slippers which belonged to her mother, which were too big for her, we can assume that the girl might be somewhere between 7 to 10 years old. As it was New Year's Eve, every window was shining with lights, and the whole street was filled with the smell of delicious goose. And this tiny little girl, she was still walking, hungry, cold and barefoot. And since it was New Year's Eve, the streets were completely crowded. But the girl, she got out of the crowd and somehow manages to find a place for herself to sit in between two houses. Gradually, the little girl, she started feeling colder and colder, but she did not dare to go her home, as she was afraid that she would get beaten up by her father, as she was not able to sell even a single match in the whole day, and she did not earn even a single penny. So she decided to stay outside in the street rather than going her home. It seemed as if the little girl, she was victim of the child abuse, and her father, he did not had any concern about the welfare of the little girl and used to ill-treat her. So now the little girl, she started feeling very, very cold, and her little hands started getting numb due to cold. So this time she decided to lit a match to keep herself warm. As soon as the girl lit up the matchstick, she felt as if she was sitting in front of huge and beautiful iron stove, and it gave her so much warmth that the little girl was trying to pull out her leg to keep it warm. As soon as she pulled out her feet to make it warm, the fire vanished, and all she was left was with the burnt match in her hand. So the girl, she decided to lit another match, and as soon as she struck the match against the wall, this time she felt as if the wall became all transparent. She could clearly see through the walls. She saw, or she hallucinated, that inside a room there was a big table with white tablecloth, and on top of the table there was beautiful roasted goose stuffed with apples and dried plums. So what was more beautiful than that was that the roasted goose jumped out of the dish and came towards the little girl. The fire from the match went out once again, and nothing could be seen apart from the thick and cold wall. And the girl, she decided to lit up another match, and as soon as she lit up the match, she was sitting under the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree was very large, and it was the most beautiful Christmas tree the girl has ever seen. So it was more beautiful than the one which she saw last year during Christmas in the house of rich merchant. There were thousands of candles lit on that beautiful Christmas tree branches, and it was decorated with beautiful colored balls. And as soon as the girl stretched her hands to reach the Christmas tree, her match went off once again. As the fire from the matchstick went out, the girl felt as if the lights from the candle in the Christmas tree started going higher and higher up in the sky, and suddenly it started forming stars in the sky. And she saw a falling star, and she thought that someone might have died, because her grandmother told her that whenever a star falls from the sky, a soul goes to the heaven towards the God. And the little girl, she stroked the matchstick once again, and this time in the light she saw her loving grandmother, and she thought if the light would go away from the matchstick this time, her grandmother would disappear, exactly like the stove, the goose, and the beautiful Christmas tree. So she decided to stroke the whole bunch of matchstick against the wall, and there came a brilliant light. Her grandmother seemed so beautiful in all the lights, and the little girl, she pleaded her grandmother to take her along with her to the heaven. So the old grandmother took the little girl in her arms and flew up high in the sky towards the glory and joy. Now they did not know no hunger, and they did not feel any cold, as they both were with the God. And the next morning in the new year, the little girl's dead body was found. She was frozen to death, and in her tiny little fingers she was still holding burnt out matches. People noticed that the girl was trying to keep herself warm, but no one knew about the wonderful vision that the girl has had last night, and in what blaze of glory she entered the heavenly joy with her loving grandmother in the new year. So the author, through the little match girl, has shown us how sometimes death can be better than life on earth. The poor little girl, she got nothing while she was alive, and all the visions that she had, they were all the reflections of dreams and her unfulfilled wishes. Even the little girl wished to enjoy the delicious food. Even she wanted to sit under the beautiful Christmas tree, and she wanted the company of her old dear grandmother. But this was not possible as long as she was alive. She could only get all this after her death. All the unfulfilled dreams and wishes of the little girl could be fulfilled only in heaven. And so the New Year's Eve was a symbol of the new beginning of her life after death in heaven. The last evening of the old year was the last day of the girl's miserable life, and with the new year there was a new beginning of the girl's life, where she had lots of glory and lots of pleasures which no one could see with their eyes. With this irony, the author is trying to reflect the mirror of the Victorian society, where there were lots of orphans, and the Victorian literature is filled with stories of such children. So during the Victorian era, begging was illegal. Therefore, the poor used to sell matches instead of begging. It was quite similar to begging during the Victorian era. The class differentiation is also clearly visible in this story through the vision of the little girl. We get to see that the little girl has the vision of hot iron stove and delicious feasts, and she also has the vision of the beautiful Christmas tree and her loving old dead grandmother. And the first three visions shows us the gap between the rich and the poor, and the things which the little girl could only dream about. And the fourth vision reflects her desire of being loved and cared. It is the symbol of the unsympathetic behavior of the rich towards the poor. The wealthy were least bothered about the sufferings of the poor, and they ate, they drank, and they made merry without caring about the poor, like the little mad girl who died out of starvation and cold. The poor girl, suffering from cold, hunger, and lack of sympathy from the people around her, she was able to vision different things which she desired for. The girl imagines her diseased grandmother's face and wishes her to take her along with her, just because the little girl has faith and hope. Therefore, we can see that two main themes of this story is class differentiation and faith and hope. And the title of the story, Little Match Girl, is thematically appropriate, as it is straightforward and represents the protagonist of the story, the little poor girl. And the story deals with the miserable life of the poor girl and her unfulfilled dreams, wishes, and her desires, and how she got rid of the cruelty in this world to reach the heaven. That's the end of the story. I hope you all got the concept of the story, and if you all found the video helpful, please do not forget to like and share the video, and also subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon so that you get notified every time I upload new videos. And if you all have any doubts or confusion regarding anything, please feel free to write it down in the comment section below. That's it for today. Stay safe, stay home, and keep learning.